Session 4, demonstration speech on how to clean your aftermarket air filter. Now let's say it's been a few months since you've installed your aftermarket filter. You notice that you're not getting the same mileage that you used to get from your first time you installed this filter. Now you're sitting around, you're trying to figure out what's going on with your car or, as you can see, bike. And you finally come down to the conclusion that it must be the air filter that's either clogged or just needs to be cleaned. Now, even though these filters do not have to be cleaned very often, they can build up debris and other material that's being brought into your air intake or factory air housing. This is something that happens over time with these filters. For some, it's sooner, and others, it's later. But there will be a time that you will have to pull that housing out and clean your filter. For those of us that chose to go with K&N, it is stated on their website that their filters should last up to 50,000 miles before you have to service them. But after running K&Ns in my bikes, my dirt bikes, my trucks, my cars, I found out that it's really up to the climate and kind of the conditions that you live in or drive your vehicle. K&N also does, like I said, sell filters for bikes, power sports, vehicles, boats, all sorts of stuff. And I'll kind of go in more in depth throughout the video. But today I'm going to show you the steps that it takes to actually clean one of the K&N filters. And for those of you that do not have this filter, this will kind of help you for the future if you do purchase one. It will just walk you through the steps on what it takes to actually clean it. Now, with my bike, before I can even clean the filter, I have to go through steps to actually get to the filter. Now, the tools that I will be using, and let me take the camera over there. The tools I will be using are a 1/4 inch drive ratchet, 1/4 inch 8-inch extension, Phillips head, 2 hex head bits, which are 5 and 7 millimeter, the hex head adapter, and a 10 millimeter 1/2 inch drive socket. Now, with actually getting to the filter, there are 2 plastic fairings that sit right here and right here. And on this side, there's 2 5 millimeter bolts and a 10 millimeter bolt that goes in right here. And then on this side, there's just one 5 millimeter hex head bolt that goes in right here. Once those are pulled off, you're now ready to take the seat off. The seat just makes it more accessible to get to this piece right here. So these are 2 5 millimeter hex bolts, and once those are out, you kind of pull up on the seat right here and it will release it from this tab. And then at this point, there is 2 7 millimeter bolts that hold the front of the tank down, as well as a 10 millimeter bolt that bolts it down in the rear right here. And then once that's done, you're now able to pull the tank off. But with doing so, once you get to the tank, there is a hose that is right here that clips on to the bottom right there. And then there is a little breather hose that connects right there that you pull off. And then there is, wherever I tucked it, there's a wire that runs back to this clip right here that powers the fuel pump, and that'll have to be released. And then the reason I have these shop towels here is because when you pull this line goes to the fuel injectors, and it's pressurized, so it has a little fuel in it, and when you pull it, you don't want that fuel running all down your bike, so I pull those. Now, I've already removed this air filter housing right here due to a oil leak inside my engine, so I really can't show you. I can show you this is a positive crankcase ventilation valve that opens and closes to relieve the pressure on my crankcase. And that actually is mounted on the side of the airbox, and then this green one is for the air inlet temperature. It's just another sensor, and this is one. Both of these will have to be removed off the airbox before you can take the top of it off, because usually you can leave it in this box, this bottom portion in there, and only remove these Phillips head bolts and kind of just lay this back. But since I had to go internal on it, I had to remove it completely. Now once you get to that portion of it, we can now take those off, and I'm going to bring the box over here just so I can kind of be in camera and show you what it takes to get the box off. Now in this process, I will be using a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 9 Phillips head bolts or screws that are holding this down to get to the filter. I know some may use an actual drill to do this. I tend to not want to use a drill due to the fact that it's plastic and you can easily strip these the pre-cut holes if you were to use a drill and go in too tightly. And with cars, I mean, it's a lot simpler. All you have to do is unscrew like 4 of these Phillips head bolts, and the filter's right there. With power sports and different types, you kind of have to go a little more in depth with how you're actually going to get to the filter. And this one can kind of be a pain every so often. Now, one thing I can go over while I'm doing this is some people are kind of timid to do this, or even to purchase a filter like this, just because sometimes the dealerships will tell them that it will cause problems. I have yet to encounter a problem with installing the filter or an air intake. So if you really want to try it, I would say go ahead and get one, because they do a good job of keeping your air clean coming into it, as well as upping the performance level. With this, usually everything's still connected together. I usually just leave this here and just lay it back like that. And now you'll see that my filter just sits in there. So really all I have to do is pull this out and clean it. Now I cleaned it roughly a few weeks ago, but if you can see the shine right here, that is just nothing but oil. So that's the reason why I am cleaning it today, is to, whenever I fix the problem, I don't have to worry about this anymore. And now I will face the camera over here so you can see me start the process of cleaning this. Now, usually I would take this, and if it's been on there for a while, I'd usually hit it on my hand or take some compressed air and kind of blow it through to make sure that I'm getting everything clean. But since, like I said, I cleaned it a few weeks ago, it's still fairly clean. I'm just going to show you how to add the spray the cleaner on there. Now within the K&N kit, and I prefer to get this just because it's made by the same company that the filter is made by, so I like recharging it with the same kit. And in here you'll have the oil and the cleaner. Now, with this, you're going to want to get it, you're going to want to soak it pretty good to get, for my what I'm doing is getting all the oil out, but for most applications it's just getting the dirt and soaking that up. So usually you would need to let this sit for at least 10 minutes to make sure it properly soaks in and gets all the grime out. But since I'm kind of in a time crunch, I'm just going to go ahead and wash it off now. I prefer to use a nozzle, not like a power wash or anything, because if you do too much of a high pressure, it will actually start caving in the cotton that's in there or bend the metal. You don't want to get both sides. And after that's done, you kind of not throw it around, but kind of move it down up and down quickly like that, just to make sure to get any excess water out. And really, you're supposed to let this sit out in the sun and let kind of Mother Nature dry it. You don't really want to use a hair dryer or, let me set this down. You don't really want to use a hair dryer or compressed air to dry it up, because I guess it kind of depletes the purpose of trying to just let all of that water naturally just evaporate. You're actually trying to force it, and just like high pressure with washing it, by using high pressure on trying to dry it, you could actually make the filter defective, and when you go to install it back, it may not even filter out anything and could relate to more problems in the future. Now, the next step that would go into this would be to let it dry, and then the last step would be to apply the oil. But I can't do that due to this filter needs to be completely dry before you even think about spraying this oil on there. But just to show you, typically you'd hold the can about right here and just evenly go over the front and the back. You want to make sure you get it, you don't want too much. Like if it's dripping oil at the end, you sprayed it way too much. You should just be able to do maybe 2 or 3 passes, and that should be enough for it to soak into the cotton and be able to clean the air that's coming in. And I mean, once all that's complete, you'll go back and move you all over here. So once that's complete, I go ahead, put the filter back in right here, bolt it back down with the Phillips head bolts, and then basically follow the steps. I would install the tank, install the seat, make sure all these connections are tight, and then put the 2 side fairings on, start it up, and make sure that everything's running right. Because sometimes if you do spray too much oil, you can actually cause a problem with your mass airflow sensor, because it's just a little wire and a little bit of oil on there will mess that up. So now I've gone over the steps on how to clean it. Hopefully, for those that don't have them, I kind of give you a little info on what they do. I mean, they're really good at increasing your fuel economy, performance with just these filters. I mean, you're going to feel a little bit, but as I'll show you right here, in my Silverado, I installed a K&N air intake, and with this, it's just allowing for more airflow and just letting your engine breathe a lot better than the stock. And some of the benefits of switching to these is you don't have to replace it. These filters last forever. I think they had one person that drove, I want to say, 1,000,000 miles on one filter without having to replace it ever. Just routinely maintenance, I'd say every 2 to 3 months, clean it out, depending on where you live. If you live in the desert, you're pretty much going to be cleaning it almost every oil change just because of the debris that's coming up into your engine bay. But for us, typically here in Colorado, I do it just because I'm kind of OCD with engine performance and making sure everything's clean. I typically do it every 2 to 3 oil changes, switching it out. I hope from what I've taught y'all, or shown y'all, will kind of give you a little knowledge on the benefits of this, and also I've taught you a little bit on how to maintenance your Canyon or any aftermarket air filter. Thank you.